Instructions for accessing subtitles in a language other than English are included on our board meetings webpage as well as in the description below. Instrucciones para acceder a los subtítulos en un idioma que no sea el inglés se incluyen en nuestra página web de reuniones de la Junta, así como en la descripción a continuación.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees regular meeting. Today is April 30th, 2025, and I'm calling our meeting to order at 6:01. We have 3 trustees present in person at the Ross Valley School District at 100 Shaw Drive in San Anselmo, myself, Rachel Litwack, Daniel Cassidy, and Chris Reynolds-Cobb. Trustees Shelley Hamilton and Ryan O'Neill are not in attendance tonight. We also have cabinet members present. We have Superintendent Tyler Graff, Eric Sable, and Chris Carson. Our meeting is being live streamed via YouTube, and the link is on our website and the agenda. There will be a 60-second delay between the meeting and the YouTube live stream. An audio recording of the meeting will be made available to the public on our district website within 72 hours following the meeting. All right, and with that, we are going to move on in our agenda to B, closed session. I'm going to identify our closed session topics. The first one is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, subdivision D2 or 3, special education program dispute 2 cases, student SSID 15112870775 and 87321100094. And there is no public here for public comment, so I will recess this to closed session at 6:02.
5.
All right, good evening, and it is 6:38, and we are reconvening from closed session. I'm going to report out from closed session. We had 2 cases, and the board voted to approve both of those as recommended by our council. And the next item on our agenda is procedural items. The first one there is the Pledge of Allegiance and a democratic reflection and a mission moment. I think Chris was going to do a quick democratic reflection for us.
We just wanted to take this moment to recognize our great loss in our community. My favorite sound on the planet, believe it or not, is when I walk on the campuses and I hear laughter. And I hope somewhere in time, in our memories, we will always hear the laughter of those young ladies who lost their lives, and live your life to the fullest in their memory. So I would like to take a moment of silence for them. Thank you.
With that, if you would like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, you may please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. And so with that, we move to our next item agenda, which is to adopt our agenda and time allocations. Did anybody have any changes or anything they wanted to pull? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to adopt the agenda and time allocations.
Great. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Fantastic. And Chris?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
And Rachel, aye. So moving on, we have something I'm very excited about as our next agenda item. We have student presentation. Wade Thomas is coming to talk about the Endangered Species Project. So please take it away.
Wait 1 second, guys. I promise. I'm so excited on the principal Wade Thomas. I'm honored to be here with all of our 4th grade learners and our amazing teachers and parents. Thanks for inviting us here. We're coming here. Oh, go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay. We wanted to talk a little bit about our work at Wade Thomas. The last few years we've come here and talked a lot about social emotional learning happening at Wade Thomas, and we wanted to share our academic component of our learning as well, which aligns with LCAP goal number 1, which is really about high engaging instruction to develop proficiency at grade level standards, and engaging in the Plan, Do, Study, Act model, which you see over there, and I'll explain a little bit. And that aligns with action 1.1 and 1.2 of the LCAP, which is also the school plan, so it's the district plan, but also our site plan as well. So we at Wade Thomas engage in what's called learning teams as the professionals in the school. And we do this school-wide as a school-wide learning team, and then also in grade level learning teams, sometimes cross grade levels and sometimes integrated with our intervention and special ed as well. And the goal of the learning teams is to look at data, all different kinds of data, high level data, longitudinal data, like CASP data that gives end of the year, and really close to the present data, like exit tickets, student work, and things like that, to ensure high levels of learning all along the way. And as you can see, the focus of our work is increasing student achievement for all students and student engagement as well. And we do that through teacher clarity, like being really clear on what we're teaching and how we're teaching it, our teaching moves, so that students can learn to high levels. So I'm going to talk to you about some of our teacher moves, learning targets, targeted small group instruction, and increasing student engagement. So when teachers come together at our staff meetings, we do this every time we have a staff meeting. We look at things as a whole group, and then we break up into teams. And one of the things we focus on is the slide picture in the middle is like small group instruction. How do we take the high level standards, the priority standards, for California state standards, in this case 4th grade, that we've got here today. And we build what are called learning targets, which are on the left, like what the students are supposed to aim towards. So they know how to get there. We talk about the learning targets at the beginning of the lesson, during the lesson, at the end of the lesson. We ask the students, like, how are you doing? And as your arrow is flying towards the target, as you're learning the standard, are you getting there? Kind of getting there? Do you need some more help? So we can adjust the teaching along the way. And sometimes we engage in small group instruction that can be leveled based on what students need. And then often to increase student engagement, we ask them to think about how are they engaging as a professional student. And that chart on the anchor chart on the right is was created by 4th grade in Mr. Marshall's class about what does it mean to be a professional student, and what does a 3 look like, and what kind of behaviors and actions does a professional student engage in so that they can be really invested in their learning. And then as they're going through the learning process, we check the temperature with our assessments, and we determine how much progress they're making and what we need to do next. And so I'm going to have our teachers come up and explain to you how they came up with their information already needed to support the learners.
Yeah, so we wanted to tell you a little bit about like what our level of what Julie just described was for like 4th grade time. So each week, Nicole and I are really lucky we get shared collaborative planning time. And that's where we kind of do our things like gather these students' data from assessment. We actually analyze it, see what their needs are. And that's how we're able to develop those learning targets based around the standards that have been identified from our district. So it's actually really targeted instructions, not just based on what we need as a school, but what they need as individuals as well. And then that's where we can do things like write in our plan books, plan out the week, plan out the units even. So like this whole project probably took the kids about 4 weeks. And we're able to plan out that time based on the needs and what they can already do or need to do. And projects like this are really cool for engagement because it allows them to work in small groups. They can work with each other, work on their collaboration skills, but then also allows for like voice and choice with other things like book projects and all that kind of stuff that's really good for their engagement in their learning.
So we wanted to take a minute tonight just to shout out volunteers that come to Wade Thomas and help us, because I know Mr. Marshall has a volunteer here who has been a regular in his classroom, so thank you, Scott. But we are definitely using volunteers at Wade Thomas for some of the small group work, one-on-one targeted instruction. We're really lucky to have a grandmother, Miss Berg, who comes and works with our students, and that for us is so invaluable too, to be able to help us reach those learning targets with our students. The 4th graders are really familiar with, so how'd you do today? How did you, how close did you get to reaching that learning target? A 3, 2, 1, or did you hit the learning target today? A thumb up, a thumb down, a thumb to the side. We talk about that takes a lot of risk to admit that, because we all want to say I got it, but that as learners we really need to check with ourselves and let the teacher know when we need a little more help. So we do a lot of work like that with the students. We do a lot of data collection. That's Sam and I on our Wednesdays and Thursdays when we meet, but Julie also gives us a lot of time on our Wednesday staff meetings to do this work and bring back our data and really think about how best to use our time together. I think one of my favorite parts about the Ross Valley School District is the way that our grade level teams work together, that we don't work in isolation. We understand that more people bring better viewpoints, more ideas. So having Sam as an amazing partner in this, to be able to say, what did you do in this lesson? What did you try? What went well with your students? And being able to collaborate on that work. And then ultimately getting to that point where we can assess our students and send information home to our families about how our students are making progress in 4th grade. So our students are really, they're the highlights. So we're gonna step aside, but they're gonna tell you about an informational writing project that we worked on this year, kind of as a culminating assignment this year. So I was thinking you guys maybe two at a time, you could come up and then swap out seats, yeah? Okay, so Sailor, you can come here. Okay, it's okay. Okay, scoot your chair so they can hear you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Dominic and I'm in the 4th grade at Wade Thomas. I'm really excited to tell you about what I learned this year in informational writing. Informational writing is when you teach someone about a topic. It's like being a teacher with your words. In class, we were split into small groups, and each group was assigned an endangered native Californian animal. We learned how to organize our writing into an introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion. In the beginning, you need to tell the reader what the topic is and why it's important. In the middle, we share facts about the endangered animals. We had to explain why they're endangered and what people can do to help them. Then at the end, we wrapped it all up with a strong conclusion. One of my favorite parts was learning about some of our native species here in California. My group learned about the California golden trout, our state fish, while another group got to learn all about the California giant salamander. This was a challenging but fun project, and I'm proud that I got to teach others about something important. Here's the next speaker who will tell you more about endangered species here in California.
Hi, my name is Sailor Costello, and tonight we're going to talk to you about some endangered and threatened species in California. California is home to amazing animals, but some of them are in danger of disappearing forever. These animals are called endangered or threatened species. One endangered animal is the monarch butterfly. It's small and beautiful, but their food supplies are limited due to loss of habitat and use of pesticides. We need to help these animals by protecting their homes, planting trees, and keeping our environment clean. At Wade Thomas, we just planted a pollinator garden during Earth Day at the fair to help these butterflies and other insects. My classmates will tell you more about mountain lions and desert tortoises. We have some presentations we hope you will enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Esme. Did you know that mountain lions are also called panthers, pumas, cougars, and catamounts? Mountain lions have a huge range of habitat. They live all across North America from coast to coast and even as far south as southern Argentina and Chile. However, because of hunting, habitat destruction, and extermination efforts, mountain lions are now mostly found in more isolated, mountainous, and unpopulated areas. They can survive in many different environments, from the forests of southern Alaska to the rugged landscapes of southern Argentina. Today, most mountain lions are found in the mountains of the western United States and Canada, but a few live in Florida. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed learning about where mountain lions live.
Hi, my name is Rowan. Today I'm going to tell you about the diet of a mountain lion. Mountain lions are carnivores, which means they only eat meat. In North America, their main prey includes large animals like moose, elk, white-tailed deer, mule deer, and caribou. A single mountain lion can eat between 860 to 1,300 kilograms of large prey each year. That's about 48 deer-sized animals. They hunt by stalking their prey and delivering a powerful bite to the neck, right under the skull, to break it. After a big kill, they'll often drag it up to 350 meters away, bury it under leaves and debris, and return each night to feed. Thanks for listening.
Hi, my name is Jade, and today I'm going to tell you about the amazing physical traits of mountain lions. Mountain lions are large, slender cats with short,
coarse fur that's yellowish, brownish, or grayish on top and a lighter tan on their belly. They also have black stripes on their muzzle and a long tail with a black tip that makes up about a third of their body length. Their eyes are a beautiful grayish brown or a golden color, and they sit just above the nose. Mountain lions have short, muscular limbs and broad feet, 4 toes on the back feet, 5 on the front, and sharp, curved claws that can retract. Mountain lions have so many cool adaptations that help them survive in the wild. Isn't that amazing?
Hi, my name is Bill, and today I'm going to talk about why mountain lions are endangered. One big reason that mountain lions are endangered is they're very genetically similar, which makes them more likely to get sick. To help with this, the government is working to connect different mountain lion populations from separate mountain areas. This helps them keep healthier. Another reason is habitat loss. As more human houses are built, mountain lion habitats get destroyed. This makes it harder for mountain lions to move around and connect with each other in the wild. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out our poster to learn more about these amazing animals.
Hi, my name is Blake, and I will tell you about the physical appearance of desert tortoise. Female tortoises lay about 5 eggs at once. A baby tortoise is about the size of a silver dollar, but as an adult it grows to be about the size of a dinner plate. Its shell is high domed, which gives the lungs more room to breathe. It can be 9 to 15 inches wide. When desert tortoise feels scared, it pulls its head and legs into its shell to stay safe. Their front legs are strong, covered in scales to help them dig burrows. The females have longer nails than the males.
Hi, my name is Camden, and I'm going to tell you about desert tortoise lives, and it's right there in the name, the desert. You can find desert tortoises in western United States and other hot, sandy, rocky, and dry places. But desert tortoises are smart survivors. They live in flat areas so they can dig burrows. Their front legs have heavy scales that help them dig deep tunnels, all with their front and back legs. These burrows keep them safe from the heat in the summer and the cold in the winter.
Hi, I'm Mikey. Desert tortoises are herbivores, which means they only eat plants. They love to munch on grass, fruit, and cactuses they find in the desert. Since food can be really hard to find, they can survive with almost no food at all. Pretty amazing, right? To find water in the hot desert, they dig deep underground. When they reach moist ground, they drink water from the hole they made.
Hi everyone, I'm Matilda. Desert tortoises are endangered because of both predators and humans. Coyotes and foxes eat the adults, and animals like skunks, ravens, and even roadrunners eat their eggs and babies. But people are also part of the problem. Off-road vehicles run over the plants they eat and destroy their burrows. There is a disease they can get from humans called respiratory tract disease. But we can help. First, don't leave trash on the ground. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. Also, if you see a desert tortoise, don't touch it. You could give them respiratory tract disease. And if you're driving in the desert, be careful not to run over their burrows or the plants they eat. We invite you to come look at our posters so you can see all the awesome work we've done.
When we told our students that we were coming to do this spotlight, I'm sure Mr. Marshall would say the same, but they all wanted to come. And we really said, that's so many students, I know the board members all want to see all your work, but where they would be there all night long. So what we told them we would do is we took pictures. So those are the pictures that have come up on the slides of all the other projects that they did, so that you can see what the other students are doing. And we just brought the 2 poster boards of the groups that shared with you. But we wanted to make sure that we acknowledged all of our classmates that didn't join us tonight. So
I think we need to hear one of those jokes.
Who
wants to tell us one of the jokes?
You want to go?
Okay, all right.
Okay, go. You want to go? Okay, go ahead, Matilda.
Why don't
desert tortoises wear scarves?
Why don't desert tortoises wear scarves?
Because they're hot.
Because they have turtlenecks.
That's good. That's good.
Did you make that up?
No, I had those finds.
Okay. All right. That'd be good.
Where do mountain lions prefer to give birth outside Colorado?
What was that, Rowan? What?
Where do mountain lions prefer to give birth outside Colorado?
Outside of Colorado. Wyoming, you tell us.
In Denver.
That was good. That was good. That was good. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us show the work, and I know that they'd love for you guys to come on over and take a closer.
Well, can we ask some questions?
Yeah. I told you, did I not tell you to be ready for some? Okay. They're ready.
Wait, so the golden trout is in trouble, and it's the California state fish?
Yeah.
So what's California going to do about that?
We didn't study that. We didn't study that.
We have a state newt?
No.
Oh, we should.
Is anyone here from the golden trout group?
No. Dominic, you're?
No, Mr. Marshall kind of like.
Yeah, and what group were you in, Dominic? What did
Monarch butterfly.
Yeah, and Sarah, what group were you in?
The giant salamander.
Oh, you were in the salamander group.
And those are endangered, giant salamanders?
They're almost threatened. Threatened is before endangered, and so they're almost threatened. There's still quite a lot of them, but there's a lot of reasons.
They gotta speed up. They move like this.
So they're giant. Like how giant are they?
They can be 4 to 12 inches long, and their tail is about half their body length.
Wow.
So what are the ones that we see around like Lake Lagunitas? Are those giants, or those are just other things that?
Depending on how big they are, they could be giant salamanders. If they're like about that big, they're probably a giant salamander.
Okay.
But that big, it could be like a baby salamander, but otherwise they're just big.
Matilda, you talked about the tortoises, the desert tortoises, right? I want to thank you for that because I am notorious for pulling over on the side of the road and picking up the tortoises off the road and putting them on the side. And knowing that we can't touch them, the desert tortoises, it changed me. And I really appreciate that information. That's really good. I'm a tortoise picker-upper. I'm very careful about that. I'll bring gloves in the car.
Don't get them sick.
That's right.
Okay. All right, so I had a question. So you all studied all these different animals. What's something that you learned about the animal that you studied that you thought was like super cool and you didn't know before? Good. Go ahead and you could just kind of go.
I learned that a tortoise is a turtle, but a turtle is a tortoise.
Say that one more time for me.
I learned that a tortoise is a turtle, but a turtle is a tortoise.
I learned that the California giant salamander is one of the only salamanders able to make noises other than hissing.
They make noises?
I learned
Scary.
that 32 tortoises can fit one burrow.
Whoa, those are huge.
Yeah, big burrow. I think 23 to 24.
Wow.
I just wanted to give you all a compliment, 2 compliments actually. First, I'm very impressed by your writing. It's very clear. You use lots of academic vocabulary and great adjectives. Your writing really made me engaged, so I want to give you kudos for that. And then the other thing I want to give you guys kudos for is that it's clear to me you didn't just learn this, write it down, and forget about it. You guys have internalized this, and you know more about tortoises and mountain lions and giant salamanders and monarch butterflies because of the work you did. So just impressed with the level of research you did and learning you did, and that you've maintained and retained it. Good for you.
Another thing, if any of you like picking up newts and just moving them or anything. Never touch them because any germs that could be on your fingers can seep into their skin and give them neoteny, which is a sickness that is keeping them from
repopulating because it keeps them in like their larva form forever. They can never like grow up to salamanders, which is stopping them from repopulating, so they're dying out.
Thank you, Sailor.
No touching tortoises, no touching salamanders. What about mountain lions? Good.
I don't think you want to.
You could, but don't.
Probably a bad idea.
Do we have any mountain lions on Mount Tam?
I think so. Yeah. I don't think like that much, but not that many. Yeah. There's not much. But...
This is awesome. That was great. This is like our favorite part when the students come to our board meetings. It's the best. I love seeing what you guys are learning, and you guys you guys are like future environmentalists and future scientists and conservationists, and I just maybe teachers, like, because I feel like I learned a lot tonight. So it's wonderful for me to see up here what you guys are getting to learn in your classrooms, and kudos to your teachers. You get to see a snippet of this when you come by for open house, but hearing it from the kids is just like
Or future board trustees.
Yeah, exactly. To our trustees. With that, usually what we do here is we will invite you, if you guys would like to come and sit up in one of our seats and take some pictures. Get some pictures from your family, because I'm sure they want to see pictures.
Yeah, I will.
Come on up. You can sit in my seat if you want to be board president.
I'm superintendent. I'm superintendent.
Be superintendent.
I'm superintendent. I don't like that. Can I have a mallet? Smell like a mallet.
Hey, Rowan. I'm gonna whack gavel.
Oh, God. Why do you have a gavel? See? My gavel. Sticky nuts. This is bugging.
Well, why do you get the hammer?
I'm organizing your desk now. I'm organizing your desk.
Order in the car.
Actually, you should say this presentation is adjourned.
This presentation is adjourned, I guess. Alright. I don't know.
Mine.
I had to
I'm superintendent.
order in the car.
I'm a superintendent. I get to How dare you? You insult me.
Yay.
I'll just let you be there.
All right.
Come on.
Mr. Marshall to come over.
I'm on air. Wait, what?
I'm so on air. Good. Mine, Order in the court.
Okay.
Mine.
I consider you guilty.
And we're going to take a couple pictures, okay?
You guys come up.
Okay.
We can get one all together.
Oh, can we get Jane in there, or do we need to scoot her around?
Yeah, I need to come. I need to come stand in.
There we go, there we go. Let's see what we can do.
This way.
Okay.
Mr. Marshall with the gavel.
Yeah. Smile, superintendent.
And smiling.
All right, we also have $6 voucher to swirl for your homework. Come on, buddy, grab a swirl.
Let's take cheers and our really friends. Clean up after yourself. All right, and that was an amazing presentation by our Wade Thomas students. Very happy to have them here tonight. And moving on with our agenda, we have e-communication. The first item is public comment regarding items not on open session agenda. Do we have any public comment here? And seeing none, I will move on to next item 2, correspondence and communication to the board. We had some items there that were listed that we've received since our last board meeting. Hopefully all of us have had a chance to review those. Our next item is number 3, announcements by labor unions, CSEA and RVTA. So if you would like to come up and say something, please feel free.
Good evening, thank you. I just wanted to share that there are no words to describe the loss and grief we are going through as a community. Our hearts and thoughts are with everyone as we navigate this tragic time. The way our RVTA members continue to show up for our students and each other is truly remarkable. We are always stronger when we are together. The community will continue to grieve and heal together. We want to thank everyone for the love, compassion, and humanity they've been showing.
Continuing on our path of gratitude, we'd like to express our appreciation to all the Measure E advocates who've spent countless hours supporting and educating our community members on the importance of passing Measure E. We see your efforts and we feel your support. And we'd like to thank the Cabinet and Board for your constant and continued support of our educators and students at RVSD. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If anybody would like to vacate, please feel free to leave at any point. No offense taken.
Thank you.
Our next item is presentation and or action items. The first one is recommended adoption of Resolution 14/24/25 in recognition of Staff Appreciation Week, May 5th through the 9th, 2025.
Great. So this is just a resolution naming next week as Staff Appreciation Week, which I'm really excited about. And the way we do it here in Ross Valley School District is we kind of have all employees at the same time. So instead of having Teacher Appreciation Week and Classified Employees Week, we kind of combine them together. And we do that intentionally because our school secretaries and our custodians and our aides, our classified folks are integral members of our overall team. It's not 2 separate bodies. They are a team that work together. And I just want to note that, I am about 10 months into my tenure here. And what I've been saying since the beginning, and today only reaffirms that, is this district is amazing because of the people. That means our classified employees, our teachers, our administrators. This is a really, really special place to send your kids. It's a special community to be part of. It's a great place to work. And a lot of that has to do with the quality people in our district. And I'm just excited to celebrate those folks next week.
All right. Do we have any questions for Tyler? No.
Is this an evergreen time frame? So next year it'll be the same time frame, or?
I think we take the lead from, there's like a national, that you usually do like Teacher Appreciation Week, and then we kind of make it.
Okay. Yeah. It does fluctuate date-wise, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Nope. Okay, so seeing none, do we have any discussion up here on the board about this?
No, it just makes sense. It's great.
It does. And I think timing-wise, it's kind of a nice timing just to have a lot of gratitude for the people who are serving our children in all the different ways. So I'm happy to see this one on here. I'm very happy to entertain a motion. So if somebody would like to make.
I will make a motion to adopt the resolution number 14-24-25 in recognition of Staff Appreciation Week for May 5th through the 9th, 2025 school year.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Fantastic. And Chris?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Rachel? Aye. Thank you. We have approved that adoption. Our next item is an enrollment update.
Great. This one will be me too. I'll go relatively quickly because we've talked about enrollment and attendance quite a bit this year. And part of the reason we did that is in our LCAP. It's part of my own goals. And something that the administrative team is focused on because it helps drive revenue for our district. Because we kind of flip in and out of state aid. So this first one I just want to highlight is the very top is this year's. We have those other comparison years just so you can kind of see where there are bubbles moving up the grade levels and how our attendance or our enrollment compares to the last few years. At the beginning of the year, we were right around 1680, so we're at 1693 now, which is great news to see that we've had, just over a dozen new students join us. I'm really happy to see that. And next year, Teresa and I were just talking about this earlier today. We're at current enrolled 1,707 students, so even higher than what we are now. And we still have 15 pending, so we could potentially be, 1,722 to 30 next year. So kind of, moving in the right direction. And this kind of affirms the demographic study that we saw earlier this year. So happy to see that. The next document talks a little bit about our, got it? Yep. Attendance rates. So really proud of our schools, and I give a lot of credit to our administrative team and our teachers who are messaging constantly about bringing your students to school. If you've got a dentist appointment, bring them to school at the beginning of the day and set the dentist appointment for later in the day so we can mark them as here. To see almost all of our elementary schools at 95% is fantastic. Pre-pandemic levels are usually around 97, so we still have a little work to do, but we should definitely shout out our elementary schools for getting right at or above 95%. And then actually having White Hill close to 94% is actually really good for a middle school. You usually see middle school a little lower than elementary, and you see high school a little lower than middle school. So
what was White Hill pre-pandemic? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but this next document, now that you've asked, actually talks a little bit about what we call P2 average daily attendance. And this is kind of the marker where the state takes a dipstick on what they're going to use to pay us for per student enrollment. So in this one, you can see back in 22-23, we had 93% attendance rate. That increased last year by a little over 1% to 94.2. And then this year it's gone up to 95.18 across the district. So almost another percentage jump, which we should be really happy about. The second interim budget actually had us at 94%. So this is going to be a good thing for our actual budget to see another percentage. And that will actually matriculate over the next 3 years. So when you see Chris do at budget adoption the 3 years out, this is going to have a direct impact on how much money we have in that budget.
This is good.
This is great news. Yeah. So there's still room to improve. 95% is fantastic. I want to give all of our families and teachers and administrators credit for improving this number this year. And let's keep it going. Let's get to 96 next year and get back to 97 the year after that. So this is good news all around.
And I think, this year's flu season was abysmal. With the shots and everything, kids still got flu A and B. Mm-hmm. And the way that it was handled in terms of when to keep kids in, when to take them out, and we're still coming out with these numbers. I gotta hand it to the parents for having that dance to be able to, walk this fine line.
When we brought an attendance update earlier in the year, and we saw the numbers really high at the beginning of the year, and then kind of during that flu season, it started to dip. Mm-hmm. Chris and I got kind of nervous because you usually see a dip move into spring.
Yeah.
So we were worried that it was going to go back down to 94, 93%. But I think parents are hearing loud and clear that bringing their kids to school, first and foremost, helps with academic achievement, social emotional development, and helps our budget. And I think people hear that loud and clear.
And I think also counting the attendance as well when it matters, and then doing those appointments later on. The dentist and our orthodontist said that they are really booked more heavily in the afternoons than they've ever seen. I don't know if that's us, but...
Yeah. But that's just good education. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Right, as a parent, okay, 8:30 sounds good. Let's go to the dentist then.
Right.
Let's ruin your whole day instead of just like
absolutely.
Just your afternoon.
Just put them right back into the school with braces that pop out.
Yeah. So it's just good parent education. Like, hey, this is how the system works if you can. have your appointments, whatever, after a certain time.
Yeah, that's great. And kids tend to actually do better when they can like start the day with their class. They're walking in with their buddies, they're hanging up their backpacks, they're doing the morning activity, get warmed up in the day, and usually teachers have like morning meetings and overview of what's going to happen for the day. And being part of that is, it helps kids feel included at school. So that's kind of the update that I have. Happy to take any questions or thoughts you all have.
So a year or two ago, Eric, you gave a really good presentation about just like the chronic absenteeism. And hopefully we do that. It was in really granular, the level of detail was awesome. And are we seeing fewer kids out, whatever, 20 days, they're going to Italy, they're going, are we seeing the students that have in the past have taken a lot of days off due to just decisions, not based on health or anything? Have those gone down? And that, we don't have to answer that today, but I think that was just a good thing years ago to do each year, just to get a sense of, hey, is this like 20 students that are doing this all the time and is pulling down all the numbers, or is it?
It's measured on the dashboard, and all of our student groups, including all students, it's decreased. Chronic absenteeism has decreased.
One thing we've worked on this year is sending home letters to parents. I think there was some conversation in years past about, sending a kind of a finger wagging email letter to a parent about attendance. Doesn't make anybody feel great, but we felt like it was an accountability measure as a community that we could use to say, hey, your kid's been absent X number of days, you get this first SARB letter. And if it keeps happening, you get a second.
Have we been keeping that up? If somebody's been out for 10 days, again, maybe not just for sickness, but like we're just traveling.
Yes, so we're sending those letters, and we've actually had there's one student in particular, we've had meetings with the family and really trying to engage families if they need extra support to make sure their kids are getting to school. Because usually if a kid's absent more than, it's 10% of the school year, so that would be 18 days over the course of the whole year. There's some bigger thing going on that, we want to be able to support the kid and the family in getting their students to school.
Our principals have all added attendance as an agenda item for their weekly care team meeting. So every week they're looking at school attendance and then creating plans and looking at why are kids out and what can we do to get them back in or support them when they need to be home.
And I just quickly looked up, we report our chronic absenteeism data with the CalPADS end of year reporting. So that gets reported in July of each year. So we don't have the current year data summarized just yet.
But when we do, we'll bring that back. That's a good question, Daniel.
All right, any more questions?
What about the enrollment trends for next year?
1707. With 15 pending. So it looks like, we could be up another 30-ish students at the high end. And Teresa typically sees, between 10 and 14 new students between now and kind of August. But then some students decide they move, or so I'm thinking it'll be up somewhere between 20 to 30, which is great.
Which has a lot to do with expanding TK as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I believe that was also in line with the demographic study that we recently had reported. They were estimating that same type of a bump.
Yeah.
These COVID babies are joining us next year.
Welcome. Do you have any public comment on this? No? Okay, no public comment. Any discussion from the board up here? I'm pleased to see like the numbers going up, just in line with the demographic study. But it does kind of bear out what we were seeing like anecdotally in the neighborhoods. All right, so we don't have to do anything on this. There's no action to take. So I'll move on then. Our next item is recommended approval of M Class with Diebels Edition 8 and M Class Lectura as RVSD screener for risk of reading difficulties.
It's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words, but I got it.
All right. I'm excited about this one. There it is. Okay. So,
can we go back to that cartoon?
Look at us.
What does it mean?
So I'm glad that you asked, because I put that there on purpose. That is an example of a decodable reader. And the whole thing, and decodables are something that a lot of the science of reading folk feel like have been missing from instruction, and they're beginning readers for students that really only include, or almost only include, words that can be decoded. And because you can only use the words with, you know, the letter sounds and blends and things that students are learning, the stories get really wonky. And so that's what this is an example of, putting some words together that this is probably a first grade could read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's like they're not using the pictures to figure out what it's supposed to say and guessing on the words? Okay.
Right. Well, and this one does, they don't always have the pictures, and if you're actually assessing kids, they don't have any pictures, but kids need pictures to go with their books. And so often our decodables do include pictures.
And those pictures sometimes are the context clues that they need to finish out sounding the word or predict what the next word in the sentence is. So, you know, having the pictures there, I mean, maybe not this particular one, but does help with decoding from time to time.
Thank you.
Thanks for me.
Okay.
Alrighty. So this has been a big effort from Governor Newsom, who actually is dyslexic himself, and really wanting to make sure that we are screening our students for any reading difficulties. And a lot of people think of this as a dyslexia screener, but it is a reading difficulty screener. It does not diagnose dyslexia. And now there are, you know, it is now a California mandate that all of our students in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade will get screened. The mandate is for them to be screened once a year. I have to do both of these at the same time because I can't read that. And it's based on, you know, all of this information that we have about how kids learn to read and how supporting students early on can really help them to, you know, become successful readers. So by screening kids, it informs individual instruction. We're able to measure progress. We can identify specific learning needs and just have conversations with parents and staff about how to best support students. And the screeners that we use, or the screeners that are being recommended, measure a lot of different things. They measure things like letter sounds, letter recognition, decoding skills. They have a test in there for nonsense words, because if you can, because a lot of words are memorized as words, you know, particularly like sight words, like the word stop, the student may be able to just remember it because they've seen the word a lot, whereas a nonsense word is a word that they've never seen before, and so you're actually testing how well they know each of those letter sounds and how well they're able to blend them together and read them. Nonsense words are kind of confusing for folks some of the time. So, again, the requirement is that students be screened annually, and also that we are providing appropriate instruction, foundational reading instruction. Students need to be screened within 45 days of the beginning of the calendar year. And parents need to be notified 15 days before the screening that the screening will be administered, and they can opt out in writing. And then districts need to provide results within 45 days. And then for students who are identified as being at risk, districts are required to put in supports as well. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Why would parents opt out of this screening? Like, what's the negative?
Well, just like any assessment, you know, parents may have feelings about whether or not they want their child to be assessed. So sometimes parents opt out of the CASP assessment. And so it is an option.
What is our stance in how we communicate follow up to the parents? For example, this is about difficulty reading. It screens the challenges that one might have reading, but sometimes underneath that there is dyslexia. And so what is our approach to help guide them? Because you have to get a special assessment, right, medically for dyslexia? Like, what
Yes,
do you do with
I
that?
mean, I think that, the assessment data gives us really good information. And so basically it's a universal screening. That means every child gets screened. And then some of these kids are gonna pop up as maybe having a reading difficulty, and then we're gonna go in a little bit more deeper.
Mhm.
And we're gonna use some other diagnostics, and we're bringing in our intervention teacher, we have our special education staff, and then that's when those conversations may take place, and you would have a student study team that involves the parents, make recommendations to the parents, for what further screening might be needed.
Are we ever in a position where we eventually can diagnose a child with dyslexia, or do we eventually hand that off for the parent to have it done on their own?
So,
That's a good Eric question.
great question, and so any diagnosis, at least that term would be more on the medical side, so something that would be, we don't diagnose. If it's something that could potentially be, because these tools aren't special ed diagnostic evaluation tools, but as a diagnostic, they can be like a window into like, hey, might there be a learning disability? Do we need to assess for special ed? So, and part of what I think we'll all collectively wrestle with is that dyslexia isn't one thing. That it's like a lot of terms that get thrown around. There's just a lot of different presentations and like sort of degrees of severity. So it's really, really cool in that it'll be another means of, intervention supports. And might this be a case where somebody needs more formal evaluation for potential special ed consideration?
So I guess I'm putting on my equity lens here, right? You have, some parents that are quite capable of saying, okay, I know where to take my child, I know what to do, I know what the next steps are. And then there's some parents that don't have that ability to understand what processes need to be, established to get to that pure diagnosis of what the issue might be. And so I'm just sort of wondering, like, our role in guiding those parents so that it's an even playing field for all of the kids who are part of whatever home they come from, that they have the equal access to get that process done, across the board, right?
I think there's a couple
maybe
things.
There's not an answer to this, but it's just, I'm thinking about
It's
it.
an important question.
Yeah, I think one of the things to think about is that we have a responsibility to identify students that are struggling. So the parent doesn't have to be the one that does the identification. We have care teams, we have SST process, which is student study team process, where teachers and administrators and special educators are looking at data to say, this kid is struggling, they need more support. So that it's not really the responsibility of the parent, although we invite that input. The school is doing what's called child find, to find if students are struggling with things. And then I think there is a nuanced difference between how we might assess a student for instance, if a kid shows up on this reading screener, maybe in 2nd or 3rd grade, and they're struggling, they might, the teacher and the administrator and the special educator might do a student study team to see what supports this student might get in the general ed regular classroom, or if there's intervention. And then if that intervention doesn't work, then you might actually do a recommendation for special education. Then there would be assessment by the special education team that would not diagnose, but would identify where the challenge is. And I think sometimes there's a tension for families, like, I actually want to know what the name of the thing is. We don't do that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that as a parent, I would like to know what does my kid have that creates this barrier for them.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of wondering our role in how we can help guide those families to find the right processes to get the label or whatever they might need to. I think once a kid knows what it is, their self-esteem. You know this. That helps them understand what they're dealing with, right? Instead of just being like, well, you have some difficulties and we're going to give you some things to do with. That's all I was wondering about, like, You know, are we able to equip all the families with just a roadmap as to, it might be this, we don't know, we don't diagnose, but here are the resources that we recommend you go for, right? Does that make sense?
Once we make recommendations, we have to pay for it.
That's
so if we're recommending to go get a medical diagnosis, now we're responsible for paying for it. So what we do is what every school district does across the country is we might give a student might be tagged with specific learning disability, which is a big umbrella that a lot of very specific types of diagnoses that you might get in a medical field fall under. But we wouldn't recommend that, because we could provide the service and support for a student without the diagnosis.
I hear you.
But families sometimes want to know, or a student feels differently when they have a specific label to it.
Yeah.
But we are providing really detailed data to parents where you can look and you can see on all these different elements of these assessments, you know, where were they strong and where were they struggling and what does that mean? And what does that mean for, you know, school instruction? What supports can you provide at home?
Which is great.
To do all of that.
Because the parents will say, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And we have that. Yeah.
And it's our job to do something.
Yeah,
exactly. It's our job to
Yeah.
support. Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, I do want to.
That's a good question.
Okay. So in terms of our kind of how we've worked towards identifying our screener, a couple of years ago, I think, you know, we've talked about the kind of deep investment that we made in training all of our teachers, our classroom teachers and our special education teachers around science of reading and foundational instruction. And way back then, we started piloting this assessment, this screener, M-Class Dibbles, in our first grade. And our intervention teachers are the ones that were trained to administer that assessment. And then last year, we expanded that implementation to grades K through 2. And again, that was the intervention team that's doing the assessing, but last year, our intervention teachers started having data meetings with classroom teachers and principals and the care teams to make sure everybody has their hands on the assessments and is able to use that data to inform instruction. And then this year, so in other words, we've been way ahead of the game on this one. We didn't adopt last year, but you know, we've been in full, this is our second year of full implementation. But we did, there are 4, which is actually on the next slide. I think that there were over 10 different tools that were taken to the state, and these are the only 4 that were approved. And one of those is the one that we've been using, M-Class with Dibbles Edition 8 and M-Class Lectura. And so we wanted to find out about the others just to make sure that we felt good about our decision. And the only one that we had some interest in was Multitudes, which we actually have been a pilot district for Multitudes. Multitudes comes out of UCSF. And there's a lot of things that we really like about it, but it's still kind of young as an assessment. And one thing that really struck us is that it's only administered 1 time a year. And M-Class Dibbles is administered 3 times a year, and our teachers and staff are really valuing that longitudinal data and being able to look at student progress. And then another piece of it is that Multitudes takes about 15 minutes per student to administer, which is a lot of time, whereas M-Class is, I think, about 6 to 8 minutes a kid. It is a tool that's being administered 1-to-1. So right now it's our intervention teachers and they sit down with a kid. The intervention teacher has an iPad and they're scoring on the iPad, but the student is looking at a piece of paper with the assessment on the paper. And what's great about scoring it on the iPad is that that's how the data is immediately being fed into the system and analyzed.
Are these the special education teachers doing this or the actual classroom teachers?
These are our intervention teachers. So these are the teachers that pull small groups, like at Brookside, it's Alicia Hanks. And they also provide English language development and instruction. So not our special ed staff.
But it's being administered to all kids.
And it's being administered to all kids. And at some point, it may be classroom teachers. Right now, with a possible adoption of a ELA program in front of us and all the training that's going to take for teachers, it doesn't feel like it's time yet to transition there because it's a big undertaking. And our intervention teachers are really good at it. And our instructional coach, Melina, also supports that team and does a lot of the assessments as well. And so we are recommending to continue using MClass with Dipples Edition 8 and MClass Lectura, which we have not yet used, but it's the Spanish language version. And it's specifically built for kind of foundational language instruction in Spanish. It's not just a translation. So it seems like a really strong tool there that we'll be able to use with our newcomers, students who are just learning English, and so that we can see where they are in their home language. This is what the assessment looks like. I talked about it a little bit before. There's lots of different parts to it. There's those nonsense words that students read, letter name fluency, just that they know the names of their letters, whether they're lowercase or uppercase. That segmentation fluency there for the student would need to give the letter sound for, I, my, and they're scored in that way. Word reading fluency, and then a passage as well. Oh, and then the one in the center on the bottom, that's called the maze, and that's the comprehension assessment where they're selecting the word that best fits the sentence. And then in terms of data, this is what teachers get when they're looking at a full class. So for each student, and I've whited out the student names there, you get a composite score, and then you can see how they did on each one of the assessments.
And this ties into the learning teams that we heard from White Thomas, and all of our schools are doing it. They can take a look at this data and say, ooh, I need a small group on letter sound, or I need to do a reteach or a small group on letter sounds or these specific letter sounds. So it helps teachers kind of use more of a scalpel when they're teaching or reteaching rather than just kind of a broad stroke like they might do in an initial first time teaching content like this.
The state is providing financial support for this endeavor, and at the rate of $22.16 per student, and the cost of MClass is only $9. So we, for once, are coming out ahead on that one.
Are we able
additional...
to use the surplus of funds to pay teachers who are the intervention specialists?
So we would use, my thought is we'll use that to provide, 3 of our intervention specialists only work 3 or 4 days a week and are willing to come in on the other days. So for them to be able to come in on additional days and not lose time with their groups would be one example. And we do want to start training some classroom teachers, so we may get some subs out there so that classroom teachers can start learning how to do this. Some of them are really interested in doing it themselves.
And there's pros and cons. The pro of doing it the way we're doing it is you've got the same person giving the test the exact same way to every single kid. So there's like a high level of fidelity to that assessment. But then to have the classroom teachers do it, it's your kid that you're working with every day. So you get to know that, the nuanced data as you're giving the assessment. So there's kind of pros and cons either way.
So it's not going to cost us anything.
So it's not a cost. I'm kind of shocked. It's not often that we say
Why
that.
did you wait till the end to tell us
that? Okay, so any questions? I think we interrupted you.
Well, thanks for the work you did in looking at all of these different programs. It's not an easy thing to do, to really kind of weigh the pros and cons of those and then look at our demographics and everything. So thank you.
You are
It's a lot of
welcome,
work.
and really that goes to Melina and the intervention team. And I should have mentioned one of our intervention teachers, Angie Kastner, is trained as a dyslexia expert. She's on a number of boards, and she also is, I don't know if it's credentialed, but to deliver training to teachers on dyslexia. So we had, and she was very involved in looking at all of these different tools. So that was helpful as well. But thank you. So staff recommends board approval of M-Class 8 and M-Class Lectura
Do we have any
as
more
a reading
questions?
screener.
All right, I'm gonna go for public comment. No public comment, okay. Discussion period for the board?
It's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, it was great.
This is kind of like, wait, does it have this money? And it's great, like, thank you. And thank you to the intervention team for highlighting this and piloting all the other ones and looking at everything, because I know it takes a long time to get to this stage.
You're welcome.
So I will entertain a motion.
Yeah, so I think we should approve the adoption of the M-Class DIBELS as a district screener for risk of reading difficulties.
Second.
You'll second?
Okay, Daniel?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Rachel, aye. Thank you.
I'm gonna go blow my nose real quick. Look at that.
All right, our next item is status of facilities work. And that is Chris. Whose mic is on, I hope.
It is me. And I'm going to try and speak a little louder because I know I have a tendency to be quiet. So thank you for the opportunity to talk this evening about our facilities. And first we're going to talk about our prioritized list, and then we'll talk about what we did during the spring, what we have ongoing in the summer, and then kind of what we're going to be doing as we move forward. One of the things that happened during Tyler's walking around tour is facilities came out as a large priority within the community. And so one of the first things that we did as a management team is we broke apart. It was myself, the CBO, the superintendent Tyler, as well as Des McKissock, our director of maintenance. We went out and met with each of the principals and also had 2 board members present potentially at each of the sites as well. And the purpose of the tour was to just look at the conditions of our facilities. And then the other thing that happened is that we also put out a survey to the school community with kind of a list of areas that they can look at as what their priorities were. And as we looked at everything, these are the priorities that came out of all of that work. We had top priority of shade structures. Next was preventative maintenance, our solar arrays, our beautification, security, the Brookside Bridge, our TK Place structures came out of that, as well as painting. And then it didn't get on as a vote, but it was something that we saw a lot of community feedback had to do with our field maintenance. And so one thing I want to point out, and you'll see kind of everything that's off to the right where we're at with each of these projects and moving forward. And we're going to talk a little bit about those moving forward as well. This is a tool that we use. This is just an example so that the board and public can see what we do. We actually break it down at each individual site and look at every single item that kind of pops up. And what we're doing is looking at the priority of it and also what the status is of it. So we're tracking it to make sure that we are making progress towards everything that we are asked to do.
So when we did our site walkthroughs, stuff that wasn't on that survey that we sent out to the community came up from our principals, because our principals are managing the sites every day. They're talking to parents, they're hearing from teachers, and some things that might not be on my radar as a superintendent or even Chris's or Des is on the principal's radar. And this was an opportunity for them to bring it up. And we just put it in the spreadsheet and then kind of ranked how high a priority was it, where the funding would come from, whether it's going to be routine restricted maintenance or from the one-time money that we got from the sale of Deer Park, or some of these projects are going to be funded by the PTA. And we just kind of tried to be clear about the priority and where the funding was coming from.
And perfect example of that is like our bathroom refresh there. You'll see that on line 32. So kind of moving forward into our spring projects, these are, and I intentionally put a lot of pictures on here because it's, what it does is show the level of chaos that happens. It was 1 week period. This is all work that happened within our very small department during that period.
Was that last one Brookside? You
got
probably put stairs. You're a god.
That came up in the facilities walkthrough. That came up as a problem area for students that were like jumping around and going through there, and it wasn't really safe at all.
Yeah.
So that came up, and this was, we were able to do that. Or Chris's team was able to do that, which is great.
I obviously haven't been on campus for a long time.
And I'll go through each one, but what I really wanted to point out is that we have a tremendously small staff. I can't reiterate that enough. We have 4 staff for our 6 campuses. One of our campuses is our district office, but we have 5 schools in the district office. So 4 staff, 6 sites. Just kind of as a point of reference, my previous district, we had 10 schools, 1 district office, so 11 sites. I had 12 staff. And that's just a point of reference. Not that one is right, one is wrong. That's just the way it worked out. It was a bigger district with over 5,000 kids as well. So you get economies of scale. But first of all, these 2 pictures here on the left, these are our 2 fields that are the biggest problems according to the athletic users. So the top one is Manor, the bottom one is White Hill. And we had previously, in the weeks prior to the break, we had gone through and done all the punching of the fields. And what we did, we came back and we reseeded it and also put on a top layer of dressing, like a soil, in areas that were bare. And if you drive by those fields, you'll see that there's a lot of new growth in the last couple of weeks as well. That next picture next to the tractor is actually the office at Hidden Valley. That's actually a beam that I'd had on my radar for 5 years that I've been trying to get worked on and done. And what that is, there was some damage to that. It's a glulam beam, and we worked with our structural engineer and came up with a fix on it. That's the part of the fix right there. And then what you don't see is, I didn't include a photo. We came back over, and not only did we repair the wood, we fixed it for long term. We put a piece of metal flashing over it, so you're not going to get that level of deterioration in the future. So that's one of the things that we're always looking at is, how do we fix it? But how do we fix it for the long term? How do we improve? It's how can we do less later on by getting more accomplished now? I just included the picture at the bottom below that, the admin at Hidden Valley. That's our 6th grade wing at White Hill. I just wanted to show off the hard work that the custodians had put in. They re-waxed all that. They also, at each of the art rooms at the elementaries, they went through and waxed those and cleaned those up as well. So they were deep cleaning them.
Is that the 6th grade?
That
I hear
right
it's going to be painted. Is that true?
We do need to paint the exterior.
The interior, I mean. Are the interior walls going to be painted?
We will eventually, but I don't think we have it on the ticket right now. We have larger needs. We need to do the exterior, which is in worse shape, only because the exterior gets exposed to the sun and the rain. So we want to preserve the walls for the future. So
and has the damage from the tree falling, has that been fixed?
We actually got really lucky. There was no damage.
That's good.
It hit the building, but there was no damage.
It's like a good news night.
Yeah.
It's like a good news night kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like, there's no cost for this thing, we get extra. There's no damage.
Didn't do anything.
It's like no one was hurt, there's no damage. Like, sorry.
So as we move to the right, that 3rd picture is actually our Yes Foundation building, the multi-purpose room back here on the district office site. We had to replace that entire wall. So that's all the new wall right there. We had some damage to it. One of the things, modular buildings generally have a 20-year useful life in terms of accounting. But there's one thing that we know in California education, that there's nothing more permanent than a temporary building. And this is a perfect example. I've done the same type of thing in my previous district, so I knew what to look for, and we did that. We also did our, we have a little restroom over here, modular restroom next to us as well. We had to replace that one wall there as well. So that was done. And we just need to come back and repaint those. Then as you go down to the bottom, that's in front of our music area at White Hill. And we talk about beautification. Not only does that beautify the site, but what that does is make it so that we have to do less work touching it because you get less weeds as you go forward in the year. And so that's part of what we're trying to do as we move forward, is work smarter, not harder. As you go to the right, that door there, we do need to come back and repaint that, but that is the multi-purpose room at Manor. We finally were able to get a contractor out to replace the door, both for security reasons and because the door just was in bad shape. So we were finally able to get a contractor to do that, and that was accomplished. The top right photo, that just happens to be White Hill, but one of our staff, Johnny Van Hippen, was out at numerous sites painting our curbs. He did it at Hidden Valley as well. So it's something minor. You don't really notice it until you notice it. And you really start to see them when they're freshly painted. So he refreshed those in certain locations. And then obviously that bottom picture is at Brookside. And that was one of those that came through that walking around tour where it was really obvious that kids were going through that area, going through the fence, and it wasn't safe, and they were tripping on roots and different things there. So we just kind of freshened that up and made it a safer place for them. And so those are the projects that were done in just a short 1 week period by our 4 staff that we have, and working with contractors. So
I was at Manor this week. How are the owl boxes doing? They look cool.
They look nice.
Are they eating anything?
There's plenty golfers, I can tell you.
When I was at Manor, I was doing yard duty at lunch, and one of the days I walked out there, and I was at Hidden Valley a couple weeks ago, and I made sure to visit the owl box there, and you can peek under and see if there's a nest being built in there. No nests to report yet, but what I did hear from All About Owls, the people that put those in, is that usually nesting is in October. So new owls would come in October, and I think we installed them like in early November, late October. So we kind of missed the window by a second. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have any barn owls until next October, but fingers crossed.
Best real estate in Northern California, and they're way.
Put that on our enrollment update next year in October. Owls move in.
That's right.
Kind of moving into our summer projects, and I just kind of wanted to briefly talk about every school. So Brookside, we are moving forward with the bridge. One of the problems with the bridge project is nobody's ever done a bridge, and through the Division of State Architecture, we've found only one person who's actually certified a bridge for the DSA. And so we're going to try and get that person, but they are very rarely done. So it's one of those things that we're working through, and we do have to have the project go through the California Geological Survey, DGS, and that was submitted several weeks ago. There was a 6 to 8 week period for that. We still have to get final approval of our architectural drawings. They're still finalizing the last of the drawings, and we're thinking at this point that we'll probably get those back from DSA around the middle of July, but that's already July. And so then I have to bid the project out. And so realistically, what we're thinking is that this will probably be something that will have to be done during school time. And it really is critical. It's something that we'll have to close down that project, remove the bridge.
And how would you then facilitate all the drop-offs and pickups for a large portion of the students during the school year?
Yeah, they would have to go through the Alameda, more than likely. It's one of those things that,
circle, right?
Yeah, or the circle. And it's something that we'll be working in our way through. I do need to get a little bit more information from our architect, but it's one of those things that does change probably once a week as we move forward. So.
But this remains to be a drop-in bridge. It can be done on a weekend.
Yes.
And it's metal, right?
Yes. It can be done that type of work, but the other thing we have to do, we have to remove the bridge that's there. Then we do have to do some site work on both sides for the placement of the new bridge. And then we will be required to do some form of ADA upgrades within the parking lot. So there'll be some minor stuff in the parking lot that's right there.
Just out of curiosity, those tubes that go across on the bottom of the bridge, that's electrical?
Correct.
So it's going to go against a metal bridge? Little kids walk across?
That's correct. That's a great question.
I thought it might be an interesting question to ask.
Yeah. I know that our architect is working with DSA, and fire life safety is one of the most important functions of DSA, and so anything that happens will be safe. That I will guarantee. But that's a great point.
I was like, wow, that's a lot of electricity for a metal bridge to be on top of, and
yeah,
it's contained, it looks like.
Yeah, it is completely contained.
Yeah, and I guess the insulation around the inside of that tube is.
I'm sure it'll have
I'm not an architect. I just play one on TV. It just really interested me in the amount of electrical wires.
Yeah,
and this is part of the reason it has to go through the DSA process. I mean, we're talking about metal bridge over creek with electricity. We want experts looking at this to make sure it's safe for our community.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah. And if we need to adjust course, we can adjust course.
Yeah. And that's, we have the experts dealing with it. So as we move on to Hidden Valley, for Hidden Valley, we're going to be replacing the multi-purpose room roof. We currently have a bid out for that. During our mandatory job walk for that, where we required the contractors who are potentially going to bid, we had, I believe it was 13 potential contractors. So I expect to get multiple bids on that, and that bid opening will be next week. So we'll have an idea what that cost will be and that get more timelines there, but that should be done during the summer, or will be done during the summer. Then we are also looking at a shade structure in the TK area. And at this particular point, that should be done during the summer. Again, that's one of those projects that has to go through DSA through an over-the-counter project. We're working with our architects, so those types of things are moving targets as well in terms of timelines. As we look at Manor, we are in the process of scheduling our play structure company. We already have it set up to, in essence, what they're able to do, which is brand new, is use the existing pilings and replace the structure that's there with a new TK system that kids can use that are age appropriate for that area. And so it's at a greatly reduced amount. So we'll be doing that, and that will be done this summer. We are also going to have additional fencing in that back area between the library and the like room 3 area. And we had a bid out for asphalt, and we had a mandatory job walk, and nobody showed up for that mandatory job walk. So we put the bid out again today. Thank you, Teresa, for that. She helped me with that to finalize that. And so hopefully we are able to get that project done as well. And the other thing we're going to do is reach out to the contractors that we know that opened the preliminary bid and just make sure that they get a copy of the bid so they know that that's there. Because the purpose of that is for asphalt at Manor, what we'll be doing is just doing a slurry seal and restriping. But as we look at Wade Thomas, the entire lower playground is supposed to be ripped out and replaced with that particular bid. We are also in those classrooms that are right next to that whole play area. There's a walkway that is also buckled in a lot of areas, and that's also part of that same bid. So we have the 3 areas, the 2 areas at Wade Thomas and the Manor TKK area that are on that asphalt bid. So those are all scheduled to be done during the summer. At White Hill, we're planning on doing painting and overhangs, and those are primarily on the 100 building, which is the 6th grade area. That's that exterior. And you'll notice that I have additional summer work, painting, continued restroom refresh, and deep cleaning of every campus. The reason you don't see painting and continued restroom refresh tied to a specific school is we've been trying to get pricing from our vendors for months, and we're still waiting to know how much we can actually do. But in terms of restrooms, we know that we need to do restrooms at Hidden Valley. We know we need to do restrooms at Manor still. So how we can do them, if one gets done in 2025 and one in 26, it depends upon the cost. And then in terms of painting, also the same type of thing. How much additional work can we get done? Because we always have needs. One of the things that you really have to stay up on is your painting. If you don't, what ends up happening is the wood then deteriorates to the point that you're replacing wood, and it's cheaper to do painting than it is wood. So those are our summer projects. And then next steps. We'll continue with our facilities walkthroughs in the fall. That's just good practice, so that we're walking with the principals so we know what it is that is on their radar. Because as we're looking at facilities change from year to year, month to month. So what we saw last year, it might be completely different that we see in 2025 as we walk with the principals. So we'll continue that. The other thing that we'll be doing is a deeper dive into our facility inspection tool. The facility inspection tools are something that we use to, it's mandatory for districts to do for every single school. We are required once a year to go through and look at every single surface in every single room, whether it is a roof, it is wall systems, it is ceiling tiles, it is carpet, it's cabinetry. We have to look at that and give ourselves a grade. And we'll continue to look at that and use that as part of our basis for our long-term plans in terms of fixes. And then the other thing is looking at, we had put out an RFP for a long-range facility plan a year ago, and that came in, I think the prices were, $250,000, but that's something that we still need to be thinking about doing because facilities only age. And so what it will do is help us to really prioritize and know what the community also prioritizes as needs of the community with our school district. So that's something that we just need to keep in the back of our minds. So
I just want to give kudos to Chris and his team. Small team, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reason it's more work this year is because we had the influx of one-time money. So to listen to the community, get feedback from principals and families, and then execute on a plan is exactly what needed to happen. So kudos to you and the team. All of that said, there's still a ton of work that needs to happen that's completely unaffordable for us. An example is the sewer under Wade Thomas. It's in terrible condition. It backs up all the time. It's at Hidden Valley. There are sewer issues as well. So those are like huge projects that we don't have the funds for. But I think that's part of why having a facilities master plan is a good way to identify all the things from beautification to roofs to, pipes and all the things that aren't that fun and exciting, to the things that are more fun and exciting, just to name them, put them in a plan and kind of prioritize them. So in the event that we do have more money, we can start using that money towards those objectives.
Regarding the sewer lateral, is there any way we could get grant funding for that? I mean, I know there was a period where there were grants even for homeowners to get money from
these are completely on our property, and it's not at the street level that's the issue. It's running
it's
through.
Under the actual, okay.
Yeah, so like at Hidden Valley, it's near the tennis courts. We've had issues with it breaking 2 out of the last 3 years. We didn't have a break this year, if memory serves me correctly.
And if people have grants that are facility specific that we think fit some of our needs, we're open to it. I think this community is really engaged. We've had a few parents reach out about lighting solutions and other things, and I'm open to entertaining all of those. And if they fit, let's move forward. If they don't fit, then I appreciate the sentiment, and we'll move forward.
So the influx of funds from the Deer Park property sale, that's 100% burn rate, right?
They will end up being completely spent out.
Okay.
But it'll probably take us a year or
there's
two.
a fly in my face here.
It'll probably take 2 years.
All right, do we have any more questions? No? Do we have any public comment?
Yeah, I appreciate the work and the small team, but from a management perspective, and as a manager, site council member, I was wondering, is there anything we can do as a community to maybe streamline some of this, use the community help to do some of the small things like, mulching plants? I can do that with kid in the garden hour. Or is there any way we can think of how do we kind of put a little bit more of like getting things done for the things that can be done? For example, this fence that Peg has been asking for like years and years. We're talking about maybe 10 meters of the fence that's missing. And it's the part where it's like TK, K1, so the little kids that, we never have enough supervision because we can't hire the 45-minute a day job that pays $16, right? So we have 100 kids. We're lucky if we have 2 adults there. Last year and before, of course, district said we had no money. This year in the fall, it was like September, we identified that, Mandarin is gonna pay for that stupid fence from the money that we have as a grant from a teacher. Here's the money, here's exactly what the fence we need, dimensions, colors, everything. We're talking about 10 meters of fence, and it's been ongoing for like forever. And so I'm wondering if what can we do as a community to help getting those smaller, simpler things done that don't require like a major architectural review kind of thing? How can we help to get some of the things in? Fence, especially in the TK area, it's like a safety issue, especially when we don't have enough supervision, which we never have. We rely on Mandarin. We've been asked as parents to come to the lunch duty basically every week because we just don't have enough adults to do the lunch duty there. Which it's not anybody's fault, right? But when I'm trying to see how can we maybe rethink some of these processes to get some of the smaller but important things done as a community versus having them just sit there. And I guess I am willing to help. If I need to go and work and find a contractor to do 10 meters of fence, I will do it for free because that is going to help everyone. You know what I'm talking about. It will help everyone, and the kids can run around without adults going crazy because there are like 100 of them and they're 4 or 5 years old.
It's interesting. There was.
So we're just talking about public comment. We can't. It's not an interaction
sorry,
thing. It's
sorry.
they get a one-way thing. So sorry to interrupt you. If there's something as a board, when public comment is over, as a board we can discuss. So if you have a discussion, feel free to discuss with us. But we're not supposed to be responsive.
I completely lost my mind for a moment.
No worries. Did we have a discussion about this?
It's interesting, the comment from the audience. Brookside was very successful in its parent club, really utilizing the skill sets amongst the parents. And I think a really great example is the Brookside Garden, which was I hated going back there. And what happened was we had a parent who knew how to weld and art and put in a beautiful fence. We have a landscape architect who decided to design the garden, and people who own landscape places brought in all this. You go in there and it is, have you been through the?
Went last week. Is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so what the parent club did was really reached out to their parents and said, does anyone know how to build a fence? Does anyone know how to do this? We have the materials, we need to have it done. And I know there's some processes that can go through, but I think it's a great model to utilize the parents. We have a lot of expertise out there.
Chris and I had a really interesting conversation with a Wade Thomas dad 2 weeks ago. And he used to be a parent who worked at Heath Ceramics, and he helped with facilities for Heath Ceramics. And some of this is stuff that Chris and his team are already doing. But one of the ideas that he had that I think is a great idea is, and Julie's on board with this, is giving the community, that would be classified staff, certificated staff, Julie, and all of the parents, a Google Doc that says, what are the facilities issues that you see? And just collect data for 2 weeks. You could submit 15 things. If you've got 15 things, I tripped on this one thing behind room 4, to figure out the plumbing situation, whatever you want. Then the dad volunteered his time to take all of that data that we collect over 2 weeks and organize it into a chart that's kind of similar to an urgent important matrix, where you could kind of say, these are things that are DSA that we could get done with the money we have. These are things that are like a long-term bond thing that we just, thanks for the input, but we can't get to that right now. And then here's some things that staff can do day to day. And here's a list of things parents can do on a campus beautification day, and actually identify all those things. So instead of just coming and like, oh, let's come and weed, it's actually more strategic and targeted. So we want to pilot that at Wade Thomas here this spring, and have that data and see how it goes. And if it goes well, we're happy to do it at all of the schools, to collect that data, organize it in a way that kind of says what's kind of parent doable, and then unleash the power of this community on those things. And it would save staff time to not do the mulch, but to do something else that's more important and needs more specific expertise that our staff might have.
I love that.
And if I could just add, one of the things that we had on as a photo was the door at Manor. That door is something that we had ordered the door maybe a year and a half ago. COVID and all other things happened, and it took probably a year to get the actual door. Then the person who was going to be installing it just basically disappeared, and we couldn't find another door company to put it in. And there are certain regulations that have to happen. And so Des just happened to be at a county meeting with other directors and was talking to them, do you guys have door people? And nobody had doors with the exception of one district. It was like, oh yeah, we've got this person. So Des called him. Within a week, Des had it scheduled and the person put it in. So it's one of those things that, and it's really happened since COVID, it's become more and more difficult, both in terms of timelines, as well as to get materials, as well as people to actually do the work. It's just, it's a frustration that we've also shared. So.
Any more comments here from the board? No? All right, so I will move on since this is just discussion and information. Our next item is federal funding presentation. Go ahead, Chris. Or is this
It's Chris and I will tag team this.
Go for it.
So this is just to talk about the federal funding and impacts upon Ross Valley and education in general. And so what we wanted to do is kind of talk about what are some of the federal cuts at specific education programs around the country. Then what does our federal funding look like specifically? And then what do we know as we move forward, and then kind of our next steps. So in terms of federal cuts, first and foremost, the Department of Education, as you know, is one of those things that is going to be going away. That has far-reaching impacts upon education. But what will happen is they will continue to fund the federal programs. They will just be done by other entities. So it will have impacts upon us, but we don't fully understand what those are just yet. The next one is the Institute of Education Sciences, and DOGE canceled nearly $1 billion in contracts there. And what they did is they provided a lot of scientific research in terms of educational processes and studies that were used to help form educational programs. And so those programs are now going to be gone, and that will have far-reaching impacts upon education beyond the coming years. It's something that for future generations could negatively impact us. And then another one that is near and dear to many districts, it may not sound like a lot, it's $600 million in federal grants. And they were designed primarily for things like special education teachers, so that we can help educate some of the positions that are most needed around the country, as a matter of fact. So those are some of the major programs that are cut at the federal level.
And I think what you'll see with the federal stuff, a lot of this is targeted at colleges and universities. So although the first one with the Department of Education, depending on how that unfolds, that could have impacts directly on Ross Valley School District, yet to be determined. These other two are kind of more focused at universities, and you can see in a lot of the news, universities and the federal administration are going back and forth about, what's doable within the courts and what's not. So a lot of stuff with question marks hanging.
Absolutely. As we look at federal funding, you'll see where it says total general fund, $541,000. That's just in the general fund. We also have our cafeteria fund of $114,000. But what makes up specifically the $541,000? The single largest source of revenues that the district receives are federal special education dollars. And it would be really hard pressed for the federal government to make cuts in those areas, just because it would create lawsuits everywhere. So those are areas that I don't believe that we need to worry about at all in terms of cuts. And then moving beyond that, you can see it's only another a little over $150,000 in other funds in the general fund, which include things like Title I, Title II, Title III. So there are programs that are involved there, but none of them really are programs that would completely decimate the district if they did get cut. They would hurt a lot if they came, but it's not going to be something that we'd have to, completely decimate our programs over.
And our total budget is just over $30 million, right?
Correct.
So, put $500,000 in that context, even if all of it was swept, it's not going to be devastating, but we would have to have some hard discussions about other things we need to cut to backfill these priorities. So it wouldn't have no impact, but it would have an impact that would be felt, but it wouldn't be like closing a school or, decimating the district.
The state taking us over.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really a critical piece that I want people to take away from. It's not really a big, massive issue for Ross Valley. There are districts that have much larger amounts of federal funds. We're not one of them.
That's good.
And so then what we know.
Yeah, so, first and foremost, Ross Valley School District will follow the law. As things come through the federal government and through the state, we're going to follow the law, and that's just, what we do as an organization and what school districts around the county and state will continue to do. We are also going to keep a lot of this is held up in the courts. So you might see something come from the president and it's pretty definitive, and then California blocks it, or another state sues the federal government. So a lot of this stuff hasn't become law. It's just an executive order. And an executive order is really just direction. It's not law. So kind of finding the nuance between those, listening to those executive orders, reading them, understanding guidance from CSBA or the Marin County Office of Education is critically important. But I think one of my goals is to chart a steady course and not be super reactive to every one of these things until they become law, and then we have to, be aware of them and make moves on them. A lot of these executive orders have to do with programs that segregate students based on race. Ross Valley School District doesn't have any of those programs, so we do diversity, equity, and inclusion work across the district. We're proud to do that. Our community supports that. But what we don't have are programs that specifically support, for instance, Black boys or Latino girls. All of our programs serve all students, and I think a lot of the federal action is around targeting things that are specifically tied towards a specific race of people. And then I get, multiple times a week something from the state superintendent that are responses to these Dear Colleague letters from the Department of Education at their federal level. We're really following what California says in this. And the bottom line is basically a lot of this is still in flux. So things are coming at us. We're learning about them. We're looking to experts like CSBA or the state or the county, thinking about things to be prepared, but not making any action at the moment because what we're doing is all within the law. We're committed to that, and we're going to continue to do that.
And then just one other thing, everything is changing as fast as you look at the news, so everything is still in flux as well. In terms of our next steps, it's really just paying attention to what is happening in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento, because it's changing so quickly, as we all know and see in the news. It's one of those things that watching the news can be hard now. So that's really our next steps. And so
no action for the board here, but happy to hear thoughts or questions.
We have questions and then public comment, and then we'll open up for discussion. And we have questions? Any questions? It's bleak. Any public comment? No? All right. Let me say it's bleak again, because it's bleak. But
thank you for those numbers.
Yeah.
That's actually a bit good to know that any impact from the land of what happened today won't be as detrimental to us as I thought.
Yeah,
that's good.
I thought it was a slightly higher number too.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. Thank you for your work on this and on the facilities. I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right. Comment, no comment here. All right. So moving on. Consent actions. If there are no items here to remove, no public comment. Public comment? No. Okay. No public comment. So if there are no items on here that anybody wants to pull out or discuss, then we can I can entertain a motion on those.
They all look fine to me, so.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept and ratify. Oh, that's the warrants. All the consent items. What's the thing I
Can you
need?
say move consent?
Move consent.
All right. Have a second?
Second.
All right, Daniel.
Aye.
Great. Sorry, Chris.
Rachel. Aye.
Yes. I'm thinking, and then I will also say aye. Oh my God. Okay.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm tired. So on to board business, committee updates and reports and announcements by trustees.
Attended the JIPA meeting this week. Tyler and I attended. Everything is running smoothly. There were some slight delays in the month of March, but not doing anything to breach the 95% threshold of on-time buses. They will keep the routes exactly the same next year, and the price of the pass will also remain the same. Fairfax and San Anselmo have both agreed to fund the additional funding needed, and the passes are going to go on sale May 28th. We have moved permanently away from the lottery system, and pretty happy with Marin Transit. And I think everyone in the room and the tone was that they're doing a good job, and all of the changes that they did last year have effectuated a very streamlined service. Also went to the White Hill 6th grade band concert. It was quite wonderful. Always great to see them from the beginning until the spring before they go off to the great adventure competition that they do in a few weeks. It was wonderful to have a room full of joy and music during a difficult week. So just a little kudos to Mr. Wade and the other teachers, and also the S Foundation for continuing to provide such a great musical program for our kids. That's all I have.
Awesome. Dan?
I've just been helping out on a couple of campuses the past 2 weeks, which has been fun and nice. So thanks for letting me, whoever's listening, thanks for letting me be on your campuses.
I had a laundry list of stuff. So I went to the White Hill play Legally Blonde. I just want to say congratulations to their cast and crew and the families, and thank you to Yes, because that was a super fun and very pink presentation, like very, very pink. Like everything's pink, but it was great. I went to the White Hill Middle School open house, and I got to check out 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classrooms in addition to my kids' classrooms. So that was super fun to go through and like run through all of them. I went on the White Hill Realtor Tour. Got to talk with the members of the Realtors Association, which was really interesting, just because they were kind of there just to get information about the schools. So when they're selling houses, they can like talk up our great schools. And so it was just really interesting to hear from their perspective the things that they were interested in. And it was nice to see that they really enjoyed being on our campuses, and the kids were really like interactive and kind of fun. I met with Damon Connolly just to discuss like issues that kind of overlap between our district and his assembly member work, like e-bike regulations and safety, things like that, and raised school funding issues in California, just kind of like keeping that like that information going to the leaders at our state level, like, hey, we need to really work on this funding situation for schools. Went to the Wade Thomas open house. Also got to check out all their classrooms. I did stop into those 2 4th grade classrooms, so I have seen some of the work in there that was nice to see, hear the kids talk about it. I think we skipped a couple because there's some flooding cleanup going on there from the sewer system. I attended the Hidden Valley and Brookside open houses on the same night, and I don't know how. I know that there's other people I saw jumping from one to another as well. It's really cool to see, having gone to all these open houses this year, just how each school has their own unique way of showcasing their schools and their classrooms. So it's very interesting to see and very neat. And they were all really impressive and kind of thoughtfully done. So I just want to say thank you to all those teachers, because I know that's a big lift, especially the art teachers, because they have these just amazing displays. I held a school board coffee chat on a Saturday morning at Longway because there's a lot going on, and I figure it's nice to hear what people have to say.
You're not busy enough.
I'm not busy enough. I did have somebody stop by and chat with me, so I'm going to try and keep doing that like once a month, just to hear what people have to say when we're not in a board setting. And then I went to the Archie Williams Vigil, and I just saw so many Ross Valley families and teachers and administrators there, and it was really beautiful. And it was just been lovely to see how everybody's coming together to support, our schools and our teachers and our families, but just in the greater community too. I volunteered at the door for the Yes fundraiser and Max when they had Victoria George and Stonefish playing, and that was a super fun.
Oh, good. It was a good turnout?
It was a really good turnout.
That's great.
I was taking in the money, which is very nice to see coming in for Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, and thank you to both of them for performing. Visited White Hill Manor on Monday last week, just to show support for their teachers and their staff. I was at the Manor PTA meeting that they had for their families. I went to the 5th grade, 6th grade sing and strings concert that they had, the spring sing and sing, I think. There's a lot of S's in that one. But it was really cute because, you get to see the 5th graders stepping up and working all together, and they've never sung together before that day. And so it was just lovely, and I'm so proud of them. Same thing, I was also at the band concert, which was just
5th graders
awesome.
playing with the 6th graders.
Yeah, it was great. Huge shout out to the music department. And then committee updates. The Yes Foundation board meeting was canceled because they did a call night instead, which brought in like $27,000. So if you can volunteer for a call night, it helps bring in a lot of money for them. And as far as their spring campaign for fundraising, they put a pause on it last week, just while our community was kind of like in shock. And they're kicking it back into gear now. So their fundraising now, and they've kind of stretched out the date for that fundraiser to May 16th. So people have until May 16th to like compete for prizes and kind of just help get the funding level up higher. There's 3 Dine and Donates coming up. There's one tonight at Taco Jane's. They're doing a 15% give back. There's one on Saturday at Swirl all day, and it's a 28% give back event to Yes. And then on May 7th, it's Stillwater. There's an evening give back event there. So that was my last month.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a little bit busy.
And you did your day job.
And I did my day job. And some other stuff for some other things
And some
going on
other
in the
stuff for
community.
some other things that are going on.
Yeah, just a little bit. So, and with that, I will move us on to approval of regular meeting minutes for March 26, 2025.
Wow.
Do you have any comments, changes, edits? I did not. No? Do you have any public comment on this? No? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion on this.
I will make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for March 26, 2025.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Chris.
Aye.
Danielle.
Aye.
Rachel. Aye. Okay. And moving on, superintendent cabinet reports.
Yeah, over the last few weeks, overwhelming majority of my time I've spent at Manor and Whitehill for obvious reasons, just being present, listening to the staff, coordinating with MCUE to get extra counseling and therapy dogs and do lunch duty while teachers can, be together in community. It's been heavy and inspiring to see community come together the way it did. And there are also moments of joy, seeing the community step up and doing yard duty with students, and it's a lot of mixed emotions last week. I did end up going to the vigil. There was a nice family discussion on Monday morning for some of the Manor families that wanted to help out and see what we could do next. So that was a lot of my time, a lot of our time as a cabinet in the last week or so. We're also doing our end of year evaluations with principals. I've done 3 of them so far, and those have been really good reflective conversations with our principals, and we'll do that with the whole admin team over the next few weeks. We had our final inclusion PD at Whitehill last week, or the week before last. We are planning for our special education advisory committee meeting. We finalized the members for that. We have a huge group of folks. I think we've got close to 30 participants, and we've got instructional aides and non-public school parents and special ed parents and gen ed parents and gen ed teachers and sped teachers and administrators. It's going to be I think it's going to be a fun group. Eric and I spent some time today designing the first agenda, which is really going to be focused on getting to know each other, setting some norms, and kind of understanding what the charge of the group is. So we're not going to get work done, but we're going to kind of build community. So then when we start next year, we can hit the ground running and start, identifying some things for us to work on. And then I also I've been wanting to go to a concert, and I found some time to go to the band concert. It was actually exactly the joy that I needed last week to see, middle school kids and 5th graders doing band, and I was impressed. I think our teachers do an excellent job. I think our kids do a great job. And there were some, typical middle school flute accidents that happened along the way, but it was really neat to see our community come together for that too and experience some joy through music. So interesting, challenging, tumultuous last few weeks, but aside from the grieving, there's a lot to be thankful for in our community for how strong everybody is and how folks come together around challenges like this. Julie?
Yeah, I think I would just echo all of those sentiments and say it's really felt like an honor to be present with staff and parents and kids and see everyone coming together. Lots of just heart-holding that has definitely had a large impact on me and on everyone. But it's beautiful to see how everyone within our community has come together, and including our larger community. I mean, the supports that came from MCOE with their mental health professionals were stunning. So that has been terrific. And I've spent, like Tyler, most of my time at Manor and Whitehill. But I have this week gotten to visit 7 classrooms, watching 7 different teachers doing implementing EL education, the current pilot program for ELA. And that's been really fun. I have done so much research on this program, but of course seeing it in action is what's really important. So that's been terrific. And then tomorrow I'm going to be over at White Hill and watch the math pilot program. Amplify Desmos in a couple of classrooms. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then just making steady progress on the LCAP, moving forward with that. And I would say equally slow but steady progress on hiring. We've got some positions to fill, but every week we fill a couple more. And we're finding some great people out there. Just keep plugging away.
Eric?
Just on the calendar front, looking ahead, we rescheduled the next wellness committee meeting for Thursday, May 29th, so I'm super excited about that. And I won't spoil the fun by talking about what we're gonna do there, but it's gonna be really cool. And appreciate all that Mr. Carson has done in advance of that meeting to have us have a great last wellness meeting of the year. And just to reflect on the past few weeks, having been at Manor, having been at White Hill, and just, being somebody who has been involved personally and professionally with both Archie and RVSD, the soul and spirit of the community has been so palpable, and that's one reason why I came back here after having been here 6.5 years previously at the high school, because I resonate with that so much, and I wanted to get back with that energy. And I know I speak for all my colleagues to also thank all the people from MCOE, from Kentfield, Sangerville City Schools, from all the other districts that send folks that come support our children, our faculty, our community. And I know we do the same for them. I hope we never have to.
Chris?
First of all, I want to thank my staff, Des and Johnny, specifically in the maintenance division. The week of April 15th, we were able to finally get into the classrooms at Wade Thomas that had been flooded, and the teachers were able to start to move in and actually start to utilize their classrooms again. Honestly, it's the fastest I've ever in my entire career had buildings in classrooms specifically dried back up and be able to be utilized. And so part of the reason for that is because those are a modular type of building. They don't have all of the things that needed to be dried, and so that was really good. So I'm happy about that. The other thing is I am going to be bringing, probably to the last board meeting in May, an agenda item related to our vended meal contract. We will be bringing hopefully some students. I'll be working to see if we can get some of the taste testers here, because we did have a taste test last week. That was it went really well. And what's really important is for all of us to hear the kids, because those are the voices that are the most important in the room when it comes to this. And so we'll do that and hopefully bring, something related to that. And then I just want to say that in terms of what has happened over the last several weeks, as the only member of cabinet that is not certificated, I don't have the ability to be able to help directly in the services that are being provided. And so one thing that I was able to do is just go out and be present at the schools, help serve lunch, help watch children. So do some of the minor logistical things, but it allowed me to at least communicate and be present for staff when, during that difficult time. So.
All right. Future board topics and board direction.
Could I make one comment
On future comments or board direction?
No, just as a thank you.
You can think us after, because it's not agendized. Sorry, I would like to hear it though. So future board topics and board direction. Do we have anything? No.
I do.
Meeting debrief. I like having the kids here.
Joy with the kids. Oh, they just, gosh, I'm looking at here a smarter woman because of them.
Stop picking up the turtles.
Apparently the salamanders, everyone's looking at me, and I'm like, that too.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so no motion to continue past 10:30, and then I'm going to adjourn us at 8:46. Anya, I'd love to hear what you have to say.